Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to Transition, Transformation and Radical Thinking Podcast, or TTRT Podcast. My name is Nicholas Kianda and I'm your host. Today I just have two thoughts. One is from a verse that we quote a lot. It's from the book of Daniel. It says, "And those who know their God shall be strong and do exploits." The other is a reference or a song that we normally sing describing or the days of Elijah. These are the days of Elijah. The song goes and it describes some of the challenges that he went through. And the song has been criticized for its reference and for its relevance in the current day. But many of us, I think I personally see some links between what the song says and the days that we're living in. This is the first of a podcast and on the subject of spirituality. After a while, to be honest, I felt quite inadequate to speak on subjects of spirituality, especially in a season of quite intense struggle. I hope that you will find this useful and that it will make sense and will go deeper for those of you who will listen to it. I'm your host, Nicholas Kianda. Thank you for listening and thank you for subscribing. So first let's talk about Elijah. He comes onto the scene out of obscurity, you could say, and he is facing a monarch weakened by the power of his bride or queen, who has an agenda on her own that she is chasing. She is one of the baddies of the Bible, referred to as Jezebel. And in the same way that you have Elijah referenced in the Old and New Testament, Jezebel is often spoken of in the Old as well as New Testaments. When you speak about monarchs or kings who loved God or who sought God, you won't find Ahab featuring in this Hall of Fame, so to speak. He is a weak king who makes use of his more powerful queen to find himself or to raise his profile and to rule and to reign evil on his people. He is a bad reference for those who want to rule or who have authority in their homes, in their lives, in their businesses, especially those who have a spiritual leaning. But Elijah comes onto the scene in a climate where the people of God, in a sense, are having to deal with an evil kingdom. He comes as a man who must confront the forces of darkness with his message. There's a lot that you can understand if you read the book describing his life. If you read his relationship with his successor Elisha, and I have put out a podcast describing the relationship between these two men before. You do well to listen to that to get a little bit more of a context. So when the song describes these are the days of Elijah, there is something that we can learn. First, you need, I think, to understand that the spirit behind the man is often, especially when they seek God, the Spirit of God. And the challenges that are faced maybe 300-400 years ago sometimes are recycled years later. And if the same force that was used to face and to defeat those challenges is seen as necessary, then it may come back packaged in the same sort of man or person. This is why you see Elijah referenced in the days of Jesus, and then of course as well in what is sometimes referred to as the last days. So while it has been challenged by some that this reference is not appropriate, if you think about some of the challenges that we face in the current day, you can see why there is a need for Elijahs to arise once more. The second thought is about the book of Daniel. We are quick to reference or to think about the book of Daniel and the spirit of excellence that he represented and the things that he went through, but a deeper study is necessary. First, you need to understand the context of his life and in which the book was written. You have a person who's clearly fit for the kingdom, who finds himself a captive of an enemy kingdom. The people of God had been established as his signpost on earth, his reference point, a kingdom like no other that was designed to be ruled by the living God, who had for a long time desired to make his presence felt and known, who wanted to be king above all and wanted to make his dwelling place amongst men. You see this in the time when he established his tent or tabernacle and gave the people strict instructions about how to make sure that he was among them, where he defined those who were going to be priests, those who were going to carry the tents, those who were going to devote themselves to his service, and what was going to be necessary for him to fight for them, him to dwell amongst them, him to forgive them, and him to be their God. So when the people of God find themselves in captivity, it's really something that many that were close to him did not expect. So when you think about the book of Daniel, when you think about quoting the book of Daniel, you cannot just separate yourselves from the circumstances that Daniel faced. You need to think about the possibility of you as a person of God, as a man of God, finding yourself in captivity, finding yourself serving the kingdom that's in direct opposition to the kingdom of God, and having to remember the covenants of God, the rules, and the systems that he had set up before, being challenged on how you worship, being surrounded by sorcerers and witch doctors and people who practice the dark arts and people who are against every single thing that you stand for. In Uganda, there's a song that says, Newayo okusinza Mukama okusinza yemmere y'omutima gwange. I give myself to worship you. Worshipping you or giving you praise is the food, is the nourishment of my heart. Daniel was a man who had given himself to worshiping and praying to his God. And you can think of this similar to the song where it's not just worship, it's a sacrifice. If he was seen worshiping God in a kingdom where the structure was defined to worship an idol, to worship something that was not God, his life was at stake, so he was giving himself to worship. Yali yewayo in the language that we speak here, which means he was giving himself to worship. It was going to cost him to be devoted to his God. So when you think about the book of Daniel and the people who know their God shall be strong and do exploits, think of it in the bigger context. Are you knowing God in a place of captivity under a strange kingdom that you have to serve your God in captivity? Do you find yourself having to engage with a kingdom that's foreign, having to confront a kingdom that's fallen or that's foreign? Are you facing those foreign gods on mountains? Are you willing? And do you know that God can answer you by fire? Can you call upon your God and call upon your enemies to call upon their God and confront them, knowing that your God will respond to your prayer. Are you that close to Him? Do you trust Him that much? So think about those two characters. Think about Daniel, and then think about Elijah. Think about Elijah's relationship with Elisha. Think about the struggles that Elijah went through. Think about how it is, or what it is like to live in a kingdom where the queen herself asks or demands for your life, and you have to be on the run. These are my thoughts, at least for this month or this week. As I said before, it's been a struggle coming up with any material for the last few months. But this, I think, will be sufficient to let you, or to give you a glimpse into some of what I think are the challenges some of you or many of us are facing, or at least I'm facing. I hope this makes sense. I believe it will, for those who are meant to receive it. I've been your host, Nicholas Kianda. This is TTRT Podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing.
Intersection.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.